All right, let's dive right into a really crucial area of air law. We're going to look at the specific and sometimes pretty surprising situations where the Montreal Convention of 1999, this huge, powerful document, actually doesn't apply to international flights. So you can think of this convention as the main rulebook for liability on international flights. It's the baseline, the thing that generally applies to everyone, whether you're flying with a private company or a state-owned carrier. It's really the default standard. But, with any big, sweeping rule, the most interesting parts are always the exceptions. So the question is, where does this convention's power actually stop? What are the boundaries? Okay, our first major exception has to do with flights that are conducted directly by a state for its own non-commercial business. This is all spelled out in Article 57 of the convention itself. But here's the key thing to remember. This isn't an automatic get-out-of-jail-free card. A state has to meet some very specific conditions for this exception to even apply. So let's break down those conditions. First, the state has to make it official. They have to formally notify the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO. Second, the flight has to be operated directly by the state. That means no using a national airline to do it for them. And third, the purpose has to be strictly non-commercial, something related to sovereign functions, think diplomatic missions or government business. Our second big exception takes us into a totally different world: military transport. Now, this one also falls under that same Article 57. A state can choose to exclude military transport from the convention's rules, but just like before, there's a strict checklist they have to follow. And here are those conditions. First up, again, they have to send a formal notification to ICAO. Second, the flight has to be on a plane that's actually registered in that specific state. And third, and this is a really critical detail, the plane's entire capacity has to be reserved for the military. You can't have any mixed-use flights. It's all or nothing. Okay, our third and final exception deals with something that's pretty much always flying through the air around the globe: mail and parcels. Now, this exception is a little different. It's not found in Article 57. Instead, you have to look at Article 2.2. And the convention is super clear here. It basically says its own rules don't apply when there are other international postal agreements already covering things. So why have this exception at all? Well, it's all about preventing, let's say, a legal traffic jam. Think of it like this. You've got two separate legal highways. The Montreal Convention manages the highway for passengers, baggage, and general cargo. But the International Postal Conventions, they have their own dedicated highway just for mail. Each system stays in its own lane to avoid a big conflict of laws. So why are we getting into all these details? What's the big picture? Let's take a step back and see why knowing these distinctions is so incredibly important. This table really gives you a quick snapshot of what we've talked about. You've got the first two exceptions, state and military transport, both found under Article 57, each with its own very specific conditions. And then you have the mail and parcels exception, which is in a league of its own under Article 2.2, operating under a completely separate legal framework. And there you have it. Those are the specific, pretty narrow cases where the Montreal Convention essentially takes a step back. The big takeaway here is that in the world of law, the details are everything. The exceptions don't just bend the rules, they actually show you where the rules end. It really makes you wonder what other important fine print is hiding in plain sight in the laws that govern our world.